embracing love amidst darkness. There I stood, engulfed in the humdrum routine of my very first job. The satisfaction I sought remained elusive, yet I consoled myself with the notion that this was a universal facet of any job. 2 years slipped by, marked by an unremarkable work experience, until a new opportunity presented itself, a lifeline to a different path. In this fresh chapter, a month or two passed before my perspective began to shift. A marked improvement over my former job unfurled before me, a stark contrast that fueled my contemplation. With each passing day, I found myself drawn into the comparisons, the stark juxtaposition of brighter moments against the darker recesses of the past. These musings accompanied me through another 2 years, until the allure of a new job knocked at my door. Acceptance in hand, I ventured abroad, trading familiar faces for a land of new possibilities. My family and friends became distant figures in this new chapter, yet the allure of substantial pay overshadowed the sacrifices. As boxes were unpacked, a reality unfolded. Despite the doubled paycheck, a gnawing emptiness remained. It was as if the currency of happiness had depreciated, the novelty of higher earnings tarnished by the weight of unfulfillment. The juxtaposition of prosperity against dissatisfaction loomed large. In the midst of this internal struggle, a realization dawned. Doubts began to emerge, circling like vultures, pecking at my confidence. A haunting question echoed within me. Had I made the right choice? The passage of time further eroded my social connections, as hours were devoured by demanding work and arduous commutes. To bridge the void, a feline companion entered my life, a four-legged friend who, despite her best efforts, couldn't dispel the lingering shadows of loneliness. Yet, hope sparked within me. Surely, this was just a phase, a challenge to endure. But hope proved fleeting as the weight of despondency bore down upon me. Unhappiness morphed into a relentless storm, anxiety casting an impenetrable shroud over my days. The line between labor and the joyless chores of my youth blurred, and the question of my existence loomed ominously. Would it be easier to sever the tether? To succumb to the siren call of oblivion? A desperate search for meaning ensued, punctuated by whispered admissions of self-harm and haunting contemplations of the end. And then, a single night crystallized my intentions. With a heavy heart, I ventured to a dimly lit bar, an oasis of solitude on the precipice of a decision. A glass clutched in my hand, a final indulgence before the abyss, I sank into a reverie. A voice broke through my solitude, a simple question that bore the weight of a lifeline. In my vulnerability, I shared my story, unraveling the torment that had plagued me for so long. With each word, an unexpected solace enveloped me, a sense that, perhaps, I was not alone. As I unraveled my tale, an internal battle raged, an incessant assertion that I was a burden. Yet, this stranger's genuine concern defied my self-doubt. Their words, a soothing balm to my battered soul, echoed with an affirmation that absolved me of blame. In that moment, the contours of my future shifted, as if destiny itself had intervened. An invitation, born from empathy and a genuine desire to understand, shattered my isolation. The prospect of conversation, of sharing a meal, ignited a spark of anticipation. This was a juncture, a crossroads where the narrative I had woven for myself teetered on the precipice of change. I mustered a trembling yes, relinquishing my original plan to an unforeseen path. The subsequent weeks unfolded with unexpected grace, conversations revealing shared interests and blossoming camaraderie. Awkwardness transformed into familiarity, and my heart found refuge in this unanticipated connection. A beacon of light pierced the darkness, illuminating the possibilities that lay ahead. As days turned into months, a rhythm emerged. Shared Saturdays blossomed into cherished date nights. What once began as a chance encounter evolved into a tapestry of affection, a testament to the resilience of the human heart. The abyss that once consumed me began to recede, its hold loosening as laughter and shared moments fought back the encroaching darkness. Over time, my newfound connection deepened into a profound relationship. Our lives intertwined, becoming a testament to the remarkable nature of love's endurance. Feline companions became more than pets. They were witnesses to our journey, their presence a symbol of the bond we had forged. Within the passage of time, an unexpected revelation struck me. I had never shared the depths of my darkest night, the near final act that had led me to that dimly lit bar. Months later, as the anticipation of a wedding day loomed on the horizon, I found the courage to reveal my secret, the confession long overdue. It was amidst this impending celebration of love that I chose to bare my soul. As I stood before my beloved, a piece of paper clenched tightly in my trembling hand, I felt a wave of emotions cascade over me. The assembled guests, friends, family, and those who had witnessed our love story unfold, gazed at me with unwavering support. In that moment, surrounded by those who cared deeply for us, I read aloud the words that had remained hidden for so long. "My dearest," I began, voice quivering with emotion. "From the first night we met, my life was ensnared in a web of despair. I shared nearly everything. Yet one truth eluded me. On that fateful night, I stood on the precipice of a decision that could have forever altered my path. Until you entered my life, a beacon of light in the darkest of moments. You changed my life, not through grand gestures, but simply by being there, by being yourself." Tears welled in their eyes as I continued, the weight of my confession hanging in the air. In the wake of our encounter, I realized that I wanted to embrace life anew, to walk a path illuminated by the warmth of your presence. With each passing day, I knew that my heart had found its home, and from that point on, my journey was forever intertwined with yours. The room fell silent, punctuated only by the quiet sobs of those who felt the depth of emotion in my words. And then, a collective exhalation, a release of emotion that enveloped the space. A realization washed over me. My choice to share this vulnerable moment was met with not judgment, but understanding and profound acceptance. As we exchanged vows, my heart swelled with a mixture of vulnerability and hope. Their words touched my very core, resonating with shared experiences and a commitment that ran deeper than any tribulation. And when it was my turn, I gazed into their eyes, a testament of love's transformative power. "My love," I spoke, my voice unwavering. "On that night when darkness beckoned and hope faltered, you became my unexpected savior. With your presence, you rewrote the narrative of my existence, infusing it with light, love, and the promise of a future." From that moment, I knew that my journey would forever be entwined with yours, a journey marked not only by love but by the unshakable strength that comes from conquering our inner demons. A hush fell over the room, a poignant silence that held within it a cascade of emotions, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of love. As the room erupted into joyous applause, a profound truth unfurled before me: the beauty of life often blossoms from the seeds of despair, and the embrace of love can breathe new life into the darkest of moments. In a tale that dances between the realms of grief, hope, and serendipity, a young boy named Kevin embarks on an emotional odyssey that will reshape his life forever. Kevin's world was painted with the hues of loss when his mother, his guiding star, was abruptly taken from him in a tragic accident. Left with a void that seemed insurmountable, he found himself confined within the walls of an orphanage, where he navigated a sea of yearning and taunts from peers that etched deeper scars. Amidst his longing for a past he could barely grasp and a future that seemed uncertain, Kevin's heart led him to the one place that still tethered him to his mother, her resting place. Gazing upon the cold stone that marked her presence, His eyes welled with tears, his voice a fragile whisper, "Get up, Mommy. I'm hungry." The weight of his loneliness bore down on him as he sat there, his heartstrings resonating with his whispered plea. His fingers brushed the surface of the stone, and his tears fell like silent raindrops. "I miss you, please take me with you," he pleaded, his voice trembling with the rawness of his emotions. The wind carried his words into the ether, as if carrying them to a place beyond the veil. Then, in the hush of that moment, an unexpected touch landed gently on his shoulder, a touch that sent a shiver down his spine and a glimmer of hope into his heart. He looked up, his tearful eyes meeting the gaze of a woman whose presence seemed almost surreal. Bathed in sunlight, she exuded an aura of comfort and understanding, as if she held within her the solace he had been seeking. "Why are you crying, sweet boy? Are you all right?" Her voice, like a soothing melody, reached his ears. Touched by her empathy, Kevin managed to find his voice amid his tears. "I don't have a mother anymore. I miss her." His words carried a depth of yearning that seemed to stretch beyond his years, a plea that transcended the boundaries of his young heart. "I'm Susan," she introduced herself, her voice carrying a note of kindness that resonated within him. "I visit the cemetery to see my son's grave." Her revelation wove a thread of connection between them, as if the universe had orchestrated their meeting. A shared name between Kevin's mother and Susan's late son bridged the gap between their worlds. Their conversation continued, forging an unexpected bond that felt like a lifeline in the sea of his isolation. Susan's companionship offered a glimpse of understanding that Kevin had craved, and she led him back to the orphanage with a promise of friendship and a shared amusement park adventure. Under the canopy of the amusement park's lights, Kevin's laughter echoed like a bell chiming through the evening air. Susan watched with a heart full of warmth as he rode the carousel, the joy on his face chasing away the shadows that had clouded his world. As the day wound to a close, they returned to the orphanage, the echoes of their shared laughter resonating in the air. "Thank you for today," Kevin said, his voice a mix of gratitude and something deeper, an unspoken connection that transcended words. As Susan left, her silhouette receding into the distance, Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter held a significance he couldn't fathom. Little did he know that their paths were intricately woven by threads of fate and dreams yet to unfold. In the days that followed, Susan couldn't shake the recurring dreams that had guided her to Kevin's side. Night after night, her late son Adam appeared, handing her a note with an enigmatic address. An address that would soon become a bridge between her dreams and reality. As if guided by destiny itself, Susan and her husband Richard found themselves standing before the very orphanage where they had met Kevin. Peering through a window, their eyes met Kevin's, who was lost in prayer by the window pane. A profound sense of understanding passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of shared yearning. Touched by the sight before them, Susan and Richard embarked on a journey that transcended chance and circumstance. They sought to adopt Kevin, to offer him the family he so fervently wished for. In a courtroom filled with promise and emotion, the legal ties were forged, binding Kevin to Susan and Richard as if they had always been meant to be a family. As the gavel struck, sealing their new chapter. Kevin's eyes welled with tears of joy. God answered my prayers, he whispered, his voice carrying a weight of wonderment. You've answered ours too, sweetheart, Susan replied, her eyes shimmering with emotion. We are here for you, Kevin. Years passed, and the echoes of that chance encounter evolved into a symphony of love, laughter, and belonging. In the embrace of Susan and Richard's family, Kevin found not only a new beginning but also a continuation of the love he had shared with his mother. And so, the story of a young boy who whispered his longings to the wind and a woman whose dreams transcended time became a testament to the power of destiny, love, and the unbreakable bonds that shape our lives.
A few years back, I found myself joining a small business that seemed to be struggling to find the right fit. Coincidentally, my skill set aligned perfectly with their needs, and I was able to negotiate a favorable salary for myself. My manager, although friendly, proved to be quite inept at his role. As a capable salesperson and a quick learner, I embraced my responsibilities eagerly. Curiously, my manager's attention seemed to wane rapidly. By the third day, he had entrusted the entire shop's operations to me, often showing up for less than an hour and leaving me to handle everything until closing time. Eventually, this lax attitude extended to the point where, after a month, he wouldn't even return to close up shop at the end of our shift. The situation continued to deteriorate, reaching a point where after 2 months, I was not only fulfilling my own duties, but also performing his tasks, which encompassed managing the online customer care as well. One pivotal moment emerged when he instructed me to respond to an email that had been addressed to him. I composed a comprehensive reply, only to have him react with jealousy at the quality of my response. In an attempt to undermine me, he scoured my reply for faults, aiming to discredit my performance. In doing so, he resorted to derogatory language, labeling me as ignorant and spewing racist remarks my way. His increasing absence from the workplace became impossible to ignore, drawing the attention of other co-workers who, like me, found themselves overworked and exhausted. This collective frustration eventually catalyzed collaboration among me and 2 colleagues. Together, we orchestrated an official complaint to present to the owners, gathering a month's worth of evidence to support our claims against him. At long last, I was granted a meeting with the owners, during which I openly discussed the instances of racism I had endured from my manager. This pivotal conversation transpired a week before a significant development. My manager was finally terminated. In the process of addressing our complaints, the owners also uncovered evidence of his theft from the company, a staggering revelation given his 10-year tenure with the business. Reflecting on this journey, it's evident how a seemingly innocuous job offer led to a much more complex experience. My capacity to adapt and excel in a challenging environment became the driving force behind exposing the incompetence and misconduct of my manager. Ultimately, our collective actions led to a transformation within the company, paving the way for a healthier and more functional workplace for all.
Back when I was in high school, life was a bit of a struggle. My stepdad, who adopted me, had this knack for ignoring me, while my mom devoted herself to making his life picture perfect. He was your textbook narcissist, and my mom played the role of his loyal supporter. School was a daily battle, thanks to my anxiety and inability to concentrate. Despite attending all my classes and performing well on assignments, completing them felt like climbing a mountain. My guidance counselor, the constant throughout high school, initiated a yearly meeting. Each time, I would explain my struggles with focus and request additional help. But without fail, she brushed me aside, suggesting that I simply wasn't putting in enough effort. It didn't help that my stepdad, adopted dad, conveniently happened to be a social worker for the school board and pals with her. The whole situation was beyond frustrating. As my high school years wound down, the time came for the obligatory discussion about college and university choices. I mustered the courage to express my interest in psychology and my dream of becoming a counselor or psychology teacher. Her response was utterly disheartening. She actually let out a scoff, as if my aspirations were a joke, and advised me against applying to a university. According to her, I wasn't university material. Instead, she recommended community college or pursuing a certificate in administration, as though those were my only suitable paths. Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely no shame in community college or certificates. But her words cut deep. She made me question my abilities and left me feeling incapable of reaching for the stars. Jump ahead to my late 20s. I had hopped between low-paying jobs and wrestled with depression. But one day, I decided I'd had enough. I decided to prove her wrong and applied to university. Guess what? I got accepted, and not only that, I graduated with honors. I even pursued another bachelor's degree in teaching and, you guessed it, graduated with honors once more. About 5 years ago, I proudly earned my master's degree in behavioral psychology. Then, just 2 years ago, my stepdad passed away. And guess who walked into the visitation? You got it, my old guidance counselor. She approached me with a familiarity as if we were old friends catching up. But I wasn't about to let her off the hook that easily. I interrupted her with a blank expression, acting like I had no memory of her whatsoever. She was taken aback, mentioning that she had been my counselor for 4 years. With a nonchalant shrug, I replied, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you. You probably didn't mean much to me then." As I walked away, I could see the confusion and disappointment on her face. She probably anticipated me recalling her as a supportive figure from my teenage years. But I was determined to show her that her hurtful words had no lasting power over me, even though they had left their mark. That moment of leaving her puzzled felt incredibly satisfying. It was as if I had finally turned the tables, allowing her to taste a fraction of the doubt and insecurity she had once instilled in me.
A while back, I lived in a small house with a roommate. We were both guys, and our girlfriends were living with us too. We thought it would be fair to split the rent into 4 parts. To make things clearer, here's who's who: me roommate Cal, roommate's girlfriend, GF, my girlfriend, AB, the baby belonging to the Cal, my girlfriend, and I were almost done with college. But we had a lot on our plates. School and work were taking up most of our time. My roommate had a full-time job. And the Cal, well, she pretty much did nothing all day except smoke and take care of her crying baby, AB. To make things worse, our house was in a decent neighborhood, but we still had some problems with theft. When I came home after a long day of work and studying, AB's crying would drive me nuts. It was really hard to get a good night's sleep with all that noise. Our cars also got broken into a lot, and it was really frustrating. One day, I checked the security cameras and saw the Cal and some guy stealing things from my girlfriend's car. It was crazy. She denied it, even when I showed her the video proof. But we didn't get our stuff back, and we had to deal with stolen money and cards. After several weeks had passed, we began to notice a disconcerting trend. Things were mysteriously disappearing from our room. Money, jewelry, and even items of personal importance seemed to evaporate into thin air. The unsettling part? The cow appeared to be the sole common denominator present in the house during these episodes of vanishing valuables. As time stretched into months, our frustration reached its boiling point. A pervasive sense of unease began to take root, pointing directly at the cow as the possible mastermind behind these brazen thefts. The situation became increasingly sinister as it seemed like she wasn't alone in this. A shady character with dubious intentions appeared to be her partner in crime. Striking when we least expected it. It was an infuriating puzzle. We were victims in our own home. Our possessions pilfered right from under our noses. Unfortunately, involving the police proved to be an exercise in futility. The absence of indoor cameras left us powerless in the face of these insidious activities. It was a frustrating impasse, with the cow and her enigmatic collaborator seemingly operating under the radar, exploiting the very lack of evidence to their advantage. The invisible nature of their crimes was a maddening source of helplessness, leaving us grappling with a sense of violation that seemed to grow with each passing day. When we finally moved out, I was so mad that I decided to teach the cow a lesson. I went into her room and messed everything up, looking for our stolen stuff. I found some of it, along with around $2,000 in cash and my girlfriend's missing wallet. But I didn't just take the stuff back. I wrecked her room, flipped over the mattress, and broke her lamp. Then, as we left the house, we left the front and back doors wide open to make it look like a robbery. Later that day, the police wanted to talk to us. The cow was really angry and accused us of things. We told the police that we didn't live there anymore and they could check our wallets. We also mentioned all the times we had trouble at that place. I told them to ask the cow if she left the house unlocked, which she did. And I told them about the security cameras we used to have. They asked if I could show them how to use them. So I did, but I made it seem like they were broken. The cow couldn't show them anything because she didn't know how. When the officers couldn't find any evidence, they said it looked like a break-in. We went on to live in a better place without all that drama.
In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, lived a young woman named Ilara. Ilara was known for her unwavering determination and unique perspective on life. She possessed a quiet confidence that set her apart from the villagers who often held tightly to conventional beliefs and expectations. From a young age, Ilara had always been drawn to the skies. She spent hours lying on the grass, gazing at the clouds as they morphed into various shapes, dreaming of the mysteries that lay beyond. While her peers aspired to inherit their parents' trades, or continue family legacies, Ilara's heart yearned for something greater. One evening, as the sun cast a warm glow over the village, the townspeople gathered for the annual Festival of Dreams. This event was a time for everyone to share their aspirations and goals, and each year, the villagers would applaud and offer advice to those who expressed their dreams. As the festival commenced, Ilara felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She had never shared her true ambitions with anyone before. When her turn came, she stepped onto the makeshift stage and took a deep breath. "I have a dream," she began, her voice steady and resolute. "I want to be a sky explorer, to journey through the vast unknown and uncover the secrets of the universe. I yearn to soar among the stars, to witness the beauty of distant galaxies, and to bring back knowledge that could expand our understanding of the world." A hushed silence fell over the crowd. The villagers exchanged bewildered glances, and muttered to each other. This was unlike any dream they had heard before. The village elder, a wise and gentle soul named Alaric, stepped forward. "Ilara," he said kindly, "your aspirations are as vast as the skies you wish to explore. But remember, Our ancestors have always tended to the land and cared for our village. It is a noble path, one that has sustained us for generations. Ilara nodded respectfully, her resolve unshaken. I understand the importance of our traditions, Elder Alaric. But my heart tells me that there is more to discover, more to contribute to our world than we can imagine. As the festival ended, Ilara felt a mix of emotions. Doubt tugged at the edges of her determination, but she held on to her belief that her path was unique and worth pursuing. Months turned into years, and Ilara embarked on her journey to become a sky explorer. She studied tirelessly, learning about celestial navigation, star patterns, and spacecraft mechanics. Despite the challenges, she remained steadfast, knowing that her destiny was not bound by the expectations of others. Years later, on a clear night, the villagers gathered once again, this time for a special celebration in honor of Ilara's achievements. Her persistence and dedication had led her to become the first sky explorer from their village. Elder Alaric, now with a hint of pride in his eyes, addressed the crowd. Ilara has shown us the importance of following one's heart, even when the path is uncharted. She reminds us that each of us has the power to shape our destiny and contribute in our own unique way. As the festivities continued, Ilara looked up at the starry sky, her heart full of gratitude. She had walked her own path, and in doing so, had inspired others to consider the possibilities beyond what they had always known. And so, the lesson echoed through the generations: to walk your own path is to embrace your individuality, to trust in your vision, and to never let the well-meaning opinions of others sway the course of your dreams. For it is your journey, your destiny, and only you can decide where it takes you and how long it takes you to see it through.
When I was in school, we each had lockers to keep our stuff safe. We had to bring our own locks. It was important because sometimes kids would mess around and try to get into other lockers. They gave us lockers based on our last names and home rooms. My friends and I would hang out by my locker in the morning because a lot of students passed by there. I started bringing snacks like donuts and candy to share with them. I put the extra snacks in my locker for later. My lock was really good, so I thought my stuff was safe. One day, some guys came late to class after lunch. They were laughing and throwing away packets of mayo. I heard them mention a lock, but I didn't know what they were talking about. Later, when I went to my locker, it was covered in mayo. There was mayo everywhere, even on the lock. I tried to save it by putting it in a bag, but it got ruined. I didn't worry too much because the school year was almost over. The next day, I put my lunch on the shelf in my locker. When I came back, my food was gone and there was a mess in the hallway. I was angry because one of those guys was in my homeroom and he could see what I put in my locker. I tried using a cheap lock, but they broke it and made a mess again. I even used a shoelace, but they tied it to the other guy's lock and messed up my locker again. I was fuming with anger, and I even complained to the school about the locker troubles. Unfortunately, they didn't do anything to help. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands and hatch a plan. I knew that those troublemakers were drawn to what was easily visible inside my locker. I brainstormed a way to outsmart them. Here's where things got interesting. I thought of using ghost pepper hot sauce-covered jelly beans. First, I went to a store and bought 2 types of jelly beans. One was regular and the other was super spicy. Then, I soaked the fiery jelly beans in hot sauce to make them incredibly spicy. My idea was to trick those guys into eating the spicy ones and teaching them a lesson. The next morning, I was acting all excited about the jelly beans and even offered them some of the regular ones. They fell for it. And while they were watching, I put the jar of spicy jelly beans in my locker, making sure they could see it. I was ready to catch them in the act. When lunchtime came around, I made an excuse to leave class early. I sneaked into the hallway, and what did I find? Half-chewed jelly beans scattered all over the place. Those guys had fallen for the trap and learned the hard way about not messing with my locker. After that day, they never dared to touch my stuff again. My plan had worked, and I finally had peace of mind knowing my locker was safe.
Around 15 years ago, I had the chance to meet this girl named Wanda through some friends we both knew. Wanda had a unique place in our close-knit circle. She was the one who always had a plan for parties, dinners, and get-togethers. Her generosity and outgoing personality made her the center of attention. As we spent more time together, Wanda and I formed a strong bond, partly because we both struggled with weight issues. We decided to be workout partners and hit the gym together around 4 to 5 times each week. Our shared journey not only made us gym buddies, but also turned her into one of my closest friends. Despite our efforts, Wanda didn't see the same results as I did in terms of losing weight. This difference didn't bother me at all. We all have our own unique journeys, after all. Then something significant happened. Wanda underwent lap band surgery. She kept it a secret from everyone, and when she finally shared it with me, I was nothing but supportive. It was a big decision, and I was there to cheer her on. This marked a turning point in her life, though not in the way I expected. Wanda's transformation went beyond just losing pounds. As the weight melted away, she started distancing herself from the things that once brought us close. Our regular gym sessions became a thing of the past, and she found a new circle of friends, younger, thinner friends with whom she preferred to spend her time. Their activities, including shopping at stores I had never been able to venture into due to size constraints, became her new norm. I was genuinely happy for her and the progress she had made, but our dynamic began to shift. Her attitude towards me changed. She started treating me with a noticeable coldness. It felt as if she was looking down on me for not achieving the same level of transformation she had. She didn't hesitate to criticize my eating habits or express her dissatisfaction with my appearance. Our friendship took an abrupt and bewildering turn when one day, out of nowhere, Wanda chose to end it. Her reasons were flimsy at best, but by that point, it didn't even matter. She had become a different person altogether, distant, cold, and almost unrecognizable from the friend I had known. I would have brushed this off as just a chapter closing if it weren't for what I learned later through our mutual friends. Apparently, Wanda had been talking about me behind my back for months. From our dinners together, she mocked how much I ate, suggesting I had no self-control. She spread rumors that I was envious of her progress and belittled my fashion choices, which she considered laughable in comparison to her new style. It was hurtful to hear, especially since I had been genuinely supportive of her entire journey. However, this is where things took a twist. I had a unique way of getting back at her without resorting to negativity. You see, over the years, I had taken countless photos at the events she organized. I was the unofficial photographer, capturing memories that found their place on Facebook. It dawned on me that I held a powerful tool in my hands, the power of images. I decided to take a step that would be both cathartic and subtle. I removed every single photo of Wanda post-lap band surgery from my collection. These were the images of the person she had become, the one who distanced herself from me and treated me with scorn. Every memory of her acting superior and demeaning me was erased from the visual record. It was a way of taking control of my narrative and choosing to remember her as the friend she used to be. The photos that remained were the ones from a time when she struggled with her body and weight, when she still had that warmth and kindness in her. I hope that somehow, through these images, she realized that the worth of a person is not solely determined by their appearance. And while I can't be certain if my quiet revenge made an impact, It was my way of asserting that true beauty is in how we treat others, not just in how we look.
Back in 1973, my parents were excited because they could afford to build a small ranch house in the countryside. They got a loan from a local bank, and the bank arranged for a builder named Bob to construct the house. Turns out, Bob wasn't really on top of things. He was juggling multiple projects and left his less experienced workers to handle the construction. The building process kept dragging on, with mistakes piling up, and work having to be redone again and again. These weren't small mistakes like picking the wrong paint color or putting up crooked trim. The architect messed up the blueprints, leading the builders to build a wall right through the bathtub. The kitchen cabinets were attached to flimsy drywall instead of sturdy studs. The garage door was framed in the wrong direction, facing the living room instead of the driveway. It was a mess. When the bank's inspector came for the final check, my parents met him outside and refused to approve Bob's work. The bank's guy got upset because they had already paid Bob a lot of money. He tried to open the front door, but the whole thing fell on him because it had only been wedged in place, not properly secured. The bank called Bob, who finally showed up to oversee the work himself. But the truth was, Bob wasn't any better than his workers. Still, my parents refused to sign off on the house. During this whole ordeal, my mom was a stay-at-home mom in a not-so-great rental place, taking care of 2 small kids. Meanwhile, my dad was working 2 jobs. Throughout this entire process, the bank and Bob treated them poorly, lying to my dad and bullying my mom. It was supposed to be an exciting time, building their own home, but it turned into a nightmare. My mom cried a lot, and my dad got really down. As if things weren't already bad, my parents later found out that Wanda had been talking behind their backs for months. She said nasty things about how they acted at her dinners and made fun of their clothes. Now, here comes the interesting part. My parents, worn out and stressed, went to a lawyer named Tom. They explained all the problems with the house, plumbing, electrical, everything. Tom listened carefully, and my dad could tell from his expressions that things weren't looking great. But then Tom smiled suddenly and said, "Let's have a meeting tomorrow." So, my parents, Tom, the bank's representative, the bank's lawyer, Bob, and Bob's lawyer all met at the bank. Tom wasted no time and said, "My clients no longer want this house. Please remove it." Everyone burst out laughing. "Remove it? Are you serious?" Then, Tom dramatically put a deed on the table. "My clients actually own the land where the house is built. And they don't want the house anymore. Take it away." Bob's lawyer stared at the deed, then looked at Bob in shock. "You built a house on land you don't own?" Bob nodded. The bank's lawyer started yelling at the bank's representative. "You didn't finance the land." The representative stammered, No. Tom was firm. "Gentlemen, you're on my client's land without permission. I want that house gone, and the land returned to its original state, now." My dad said the looks on the other side of the table were priceless. The bank couldn't foreclose on a house that wouldn't exist in a week, with no way to get their money back. And they didn't even own the land. Bob was in trouble, out the money he had put in and now responsible for tearing down the house. The bank would likely ask him to pay back the initial money they gave him. Could they have gone after my parents? Sure, a foreclosure could hurt their credit. They might lose their down payment. But to fix the house at that point would cost way more than they had. The bank knew my parents didn't have that kind of money. They were the ones who approved the loan. Suddenly, the bank and Bob were all apologies. The house was fixed according to the original plan, at no extra cost to my parents. They signed the mortgage. Bob got his money, almost breaking even. The bank's representative got fired. And Tom, the lawyer, had a triumphant story to tell his colleagues for years to come.
Not too long ago, I embarked on my typical Target expedition, armed with a disabled parking placard, my trusty companion for navigating the store's labyrinthine aisles. As I pulled into the parking lot, my heart sank as I noticed that all the designated parking spaces were occupied. To add insult to injury, someone had parked their hulking Escalade with an arrogant disregard for the lines, effectively claiming both disabled spaces as their own. I could feel the familiar irritation building up inside me. This situation was all too common, an infuriating testament to the entitlement that seemed to run rampant in the area. Taking a deep breath, I decided to take action. After all, I had dealt with this kind of inconsiderate behavior one too many times. With a resolve that only someone who has grown weary of such injustice can muster, I walked around the offending vehicle. My eyes scanned for any sign of a disabled parking placard or a license plate that might justify this egregious act. There was nothing, no indicator whatsoever that this Escalade had any right to be in those precious spots. Fueled by righteous indignation, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the offending vehicle. The time had come to seek justice. Determined, I marched into the store, navigating the sea of red shopping carts and fluorescent lights until I found a manager. The manager, a seasoned veteran who had clearly dealt with similar situations countless times before, listened as I presented the incriminating photo. She sighed and rolled her eyes in response, the weariness of countless similar incidents etched into her expression. This Target store was located in close proximity to an affluent town known for its abundance of wealthy, entitled residents, and it seemed that the owners of massive SUVs and F-150s often led the charge in parking transgressions. The manager assured me that she would take action and promptly picked up the phone to call the police. Deciding to keep a vigilant eye on the unfolding drama, I headed back outside and stationed myself by the store's entrance, preparing for the showdown that was about to take place. To my surprise, the manager soon joined me, and we struck up a conversation while awaiting the arrival of law enforcement. It was clear that she had seen it all in her tenure at this Target location. Moments later, the flashing lights of police cruisers punctuated the scene as officers arrived to assess the situation. With measured steps, they approached the illegally parked Escalade, their expressions conveying a blend of duty and exasperation. They circled the vehicle, peering through its windows, and ran the license plate through their system. One of the officers retrieved a small notebook, a harbinger of trouble for the Escalade's owner. As the police conducted their investigation, one of the officers signaled for an announcement to be made over the store's PA system, a final attempt to summon the driver of the Escalade. Inside, a disembodied voice echoed through the aisles, broadcasting the make, model, and license plate of the offending vehicle. And then, like a tempestuous force of nature, she emerged from the store, a middle-aged woman, immaculately dressed, the quintessential Karen of North America. Her arrival was accompanied by a cacophony of raised voices, as she immediately launched into a tirade directed at the police officers. However, one of the officers swiftly raised his hand, silencing her fiery protests. He began to lecture her firmly and assertively, though I was too far away to catch the specifics of their conversation. Nevertheless, the dressing down had the desired effect, as she ceased her outbursts and listened to the officer attentively. After a few minutes of what appeared to be a stern lecture, the other officer handed her 2 official documents. Her face contorted with anger, shock, and disbelief. As the police wrapped up their business, they returned to the manager and me, conveying the details of their actions. They had ordered the woman to move her vehicle immediately, and if she failed to comply or caused further disruption inside the store, they promised to return and have her car towed. Furthermore, they had slapped her with 2 hefty citations, each carrying a $500 fine for the blatant violation of 2 parking spaces. The sting of justice was palpable. With a final word of gratitude, the police officers headed back to their cruisers. The woman, still seething with indignation, reluctantly returned to her Escalade. She revved the engine and peeled out of the parking lot in a hasty retreat, her day taking an unexpected turn for the worse. The 2 officers exchanged knowing glances before starting their own vehicles and following her. It was clear they intended to ensure that her day continued to align with the consequences of her actions. As I watched them depart, a sense of vindication washed over me. The day had unfolded as it should, with justice served, and the memory of this encounter would serve as a satisfying reminder that sometimes, just sometimes, those who disregard the rights of others receive their due comeuppance.
In the tapestry of my married life with Tom, an unexpected and unwelcome presence wove itself into our days, my mother-in-law. With no forewarning, she would barge into our home, almost on a whim, on a mission of critical inspection. It was as if she held a magnifying glass to every corner, ferreting out the tiniest dust particles that dared to linger. My diligent efforts to maintain a pristine home were seemingly futile in her eyes, her judgments cutting through my self-esteem like a surgeon's scalpel. "Ruth, being a wife involves more than you seem to grasp," she'd admonish, her words dripping with disapproval. "A simple heads-up before you grace us with your presence would be appreciated. And it goes without saying, ensure your visits align with our schedules." Her unexpected check-ins were unnerving, making our home feel like a military inspection zone. She didn't merely express her dissatisfaction. It was as though she aimed to uncover evidence of my incompetence as a wife. From her perspective, the standards I upheld were insufficient, failing to live up to the ideals she had set for me. Mealtimes were yet another battleground. With each plate I served, I felt as though I was stepping into the lion's den. She'd vehemently insist on a 5-course spread for every meal, even when our hectic schedules barely left room to breathe. My appeals that we both worked late often fell on deaf ears, replaced by her unwavering conviction that culinary shortcuts were a cardinal sin. "You should be dedicated enough to prepare fresh meals for Tom." Her voice resounded with sternness, each word driving a wedge between us. "Frozen or pre-made dishes won't cut it. Your devotion as a wife should reflect in the meals you serve." As the days wore on, the weight of her expectations pressed down on me, threatening to crush my individuality. And then, an incident that was both shocking and liberating shattered the facade. In Tom's room, my mother-in-law unearthed a treasure trove of women's clothing and cosmetics that clearly weren't mine. Amidst the storm of accusations, Tom confessed his secret: he had a penchant for dressing up as a woman. Those hidden garments were his refuge, a canvas for self-expression he had hidden away. But instead of understanding, his mother unleashed a tempest. She turned the confession into a catalyst for disaster, pushing Tom and me further apart. My explanations fell on deaf ears as she accused me of corrupting her son. The end result? Divorce papers, signed amidst a sea of anguish and despair. As I found myself starting anew in a different space, I couldn't help but see a silver lining amid the chaos. My ex-mother-in-law's absence was a blessing in disguise. Her stronghold was gone, the shackles of manipulation and control shattered. I could raise my son without her looming presence, finally embracing the freedom I had yearned for. However, even in the tranquility of the aftermath, the echoes of the past resurfaced. Tom's mother fixated on our unborn child, weaving a narrative of familial rivalry. She pressured me to delay my pregnancy, convinced that another grandchild born simultaneously with her first would skew the balance of love between them. But amidst the turbulence, a turning point emerged. In a shocking twist, my ex-husband and his mother conspired to abduct our child. Their desperate ploy crumbled, leading to their arrest. It was a horrifying reminder of the twisted reality they had spun around us. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, a glimmer of hope illuminated the path ahead. The toxic influences were finally eradicated, allowing me to nurture my son in an environment free from manipulation. The hardships were transformative, revealing the strength within me to stand against adversity and protect my family. With time, I learned to rebuild, to flourish in the absence of my ex-husband's meddling mother. The scars remained, but they were badges of resilience. And as the chapters of my story unfolded, I embraced the freedom, peace, and newfound empowerment that was mine to claim.
A stand against the bully. In the small town of Willowbrook, a spirited young boy named Ethan was known for his wide smile and unwavering kindness. He had a heart that radiated warmth, and his love for exploring the world around him was infectious. However, the bright light within him was about to face a shadow. One Monday morning, as Ethan entered Willowbrook Elementary School, his usual enthusiasm was replaced by a sense of apprehension. A new student named Max had joined the class, and he seemed to thrive on making others feel small. Max's taunts and hurtful words quickly earned him a reputation as the school bully. Ethan became Max's frequent target, enduring hurtful comments and sly jabs. His once radiant smile began to fade, replaced by a hint of sadness. But despite the turmoil, Ethan's heart remained resilient, and he decided that he wouldn't let the bullying define him. One day during recess, as Max's mocking words reached new levels, Ethan's patience reached its limit. He took a deep breath and confronted Max with a calm yet firm voice. "I won't let you treat me this way anymore," Ethan declared, his eyes reflecting a newfound determination. Surprised by Ethan's unexpected resolve, Max hesitated. For the first time, someone wasn't backing down. Ethan's courage struck a chord deep within Max, a reminder of the kindness he had long forgotten. The confrontation didn't go unnoticed. Mrs. Thompson, the school principal, had been quietly observing the situation. Impressed by Ethan's bravery, she decided it was time to put an end to Max's behavior. She called both boys into her office, giving them a chance to share their sides of the story. Ethan recounted his experiences of being bullied, emphasizing his desire for a safe and respectful school environment. Max, surprisingly, admitted his wrongdoing and revealed his struggles with adjusting to the new school. He confessed that he had acted out due to his own insecurities. Mrs. Thompson saw an opportunity for growth and change. She proposed a plan to both boys. Max would receive counseling and support to address his issues, while Ethan would participate in an anti-bullying initiative to spread kindness and awareness throughout the school. Over the weeks that followed, Max began to change. With the help of counseling, he found healthier ways to express his feelings and make friends. Meanwhile, Ethan's anti-bullying campaign gained momentum. Students rallied around his message of empathy and respect, creating a more inclusive school atmosphere. As the end of the school year approached, the transformation was evident. Max had become a different person, reaching out to apologize to Ethan for his hurtful behavior. The two boys even found common interests and began to forge an unlikely friendship. The school administration was inspired by the positive change they had witnessed. They decided to use Ethan and Max's journey as an example of the power of empathy and courage. The school's anti-bullying initiative expanded, touching the lives of students and families throughout Willowbrook. In an unexpected turn of events, it was Max who became the catalyst for positive change. His willingness to confront his own demons and embrace kindness had turned him from a bully into a beacon of hope. And as the school year came to a close, the playground that once held shadows of fear was now a place of laughter, understanding, and friendship.
In a tale that dances between the realms of grief, hope, and serendipity, a young boy named Kevin embarks on an emotional odyssey that will reshape his life forever. Kevin's world was painted with the hues of loss when his mother, his guiding star, was abruptly taken from him in a tragic accident. Left with a void that seemed insurmountable, he found himself confined within the walls of an orphanage, where he navigated a sea of yearning and taunts from peers that etched deeper scars. Amidst his longing for a past he could barely grasp and a future that seemed uncertain, Kevin's heart led him to the one place that still tethered him to his mother, her resting place. Gazing upon the cold stone that marked her presence, his eyes welled with tears, his voice a fragile whisper, "Get up, Mommy. I'm hungry." The weight of his loneliness bore down on him as he sat there, his heartstrings resonating with his whispered plea. His fingers brushed the surface of the stone, and his tears fell like silent raindrops. "I miss you, please take me with you," he pleaded, his voice trembling with the rawness of his emotions. The wind carried his words into the ether, as if carrying them to a place beyond the veil. Then, in the hush of that moment, an unexpected touch landed gently on his shoulder, a touch that sent a shiver down his spine and a glimmer of hope into his heart. He looked up, his tearful eyes meeting the gaze of a woman whose presence seemed almost surreal. Bathed in sunlight, she exuded an aura of comfort and understanding, as if she held within her the solace he had been seeking. "Why are you crying, sweet boy? Are you all right?" Her voice, like a soothing melody, reached his ears. Touched by her empathy, Kevin managed to find his voice amid his tears. "I don't have a mother anymore. I miss her." His words carried a depth of yearning that seemed to stretch beyond his years, a plea that transcended the boundaries of his young heart. "I'm Susan," she introduced herself, her voice carrying a note of kindness that resonated within him. "I visit the cemetery to see my son's grave." Her revelation wove a thread of connection between them, as if the universe had orchestrated their meeting. A shared name between Kevin's mother and Susan's late son bridged the gap between their worlds. Their conversation continued, forging an unexpected bond that felt like a lifeline in the sea of his isolation. Susan's companionship offered a glimpse of understanding that Kevin had craved, and she led him back to the orphanage with a promise of friendship and a shared amusement park adventure. Under the canopy of the amusement park's lights, Kevin's laughter echoed like a bell chiming through the evening air. Susan watched with a heart full of warmth as he rode the carousel, the joy on his face chasing away the shadows that had clouded his world. As the day wound to a close, they returned to the orphanage, the echoes of their shared laughter resonating in the air. "Thank you for today," Kevin said, his voice a mix of gratitude and something deeper, an unspoken connection that transcended words. As Susan left, her silhouette receding into the distance, Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter held a significance he couldn't fathom. Little did he know that their paths were intricately woven by threads of fate and dreams yet to unfold. In the days that followed, Susan couldn't shake the recurring dreams that had guided her to Kevin's side. Night after night, her late son Adam appeared, handing her a note with an enigmatic address. An address that would soon become a bridge between her dreams and reality. As if guided by destiny itself, Susan and her husband Richard found themselves standing before the very orphanage where they had met Kevin. Peering through a window, their eyes met Kevin's, who was lost in prayer by the window pane. A profound sense of understanding passed between them. A silent acknowledgement of shared yearning. Touched by the sight before them, Susan and Richard embarked on a journey that transcended chance and circumstance. They sought to adopt Kevin, to offer him the family he so fervently wished for. In a courtroom filled with promise and emotion, the legal ties were forged, binding Kevin to Susan and Richard as if they had always been meant to be a family. As the gavel struck, sealing their new chapter, Kevin's eyes welled with tears of joy. "God answered my prayers," he whispered, his voice carrying a weight of wonderment. "You've answered ours too, sweetheart," Susan replied, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "We are here for you, Kevin." Years passed, and the echoes of that chance encounter evolved into a symphony of love, laughter, and belonging. In the embrace of Susan and Richard's family, Kevin found not only a new beginning but also a continuation of the love he had shared with his mother. And so, the story of a young boy who whispered his longings to the wind and a woman whose dreams transcended time became a testament to the power of destiny, love, and the unbreakable bonds that shape our lives.